I'm Mark Wright. I'm a news anchor for the NBC station King 5 in Seattle. Uh, I was born in Seattle, Washington, and raised in Ferndale, so been in Washington most of my life.
Can you give a brief description of the Mukilteo shooting and what happened in the event?
So in July of 2016, my son, who was just going into his sophomore year in college, was gathering with his friends. It was basically one last get together, one last party before everybody was going to go back to college. So, and the last thing that I ever imagined would be that myself or my family would have been involved in a mass shooting. But that's essentially what happened on the night of that party. So to give you the backstory, there was one of my son's friends, a young woman, had been dating a young man. Uh, she broke off the relationship, or he broke off the relationship, and wanted to get back together. And she wasn't interested in getting back together. So his solution to that um, was to go to a sporting goods store and buy an AR-15. So he purchased an AR-15 and he found out where the party was that night, and he went to the party with the intent of killing her. I just remember my wife called me and said, "There's been a shooting at Tristan's house." And I was like, What do you mean a shooting?" "Yeah, there was a party and there was a shooting." And I had no idea what actually happened. I thought maybe somebody, you know how sometimes parties are crashed by unwanted people, and I thought maybe that was some bizarre thing, but I had no idea that it would be as just terrible and heinous as it was. Once the shooting started on the back patio, my son knew something was terribly wrong, so it was very loud. So they sprinted upstairs. He and his girlfriend sprinted upstairs, and my son knew the layout of the house well enough that he ran out through the master bedroom, out onto the balcony, and climbed up on the roof and climbed to the backside of the roof to get away. And they hid there until the shooting stopped. So that's essentially what happened that night. It was just a terrible, I mean, nothing like that has ever happened in this community.
How was your son affected? Like, I can imagine that there was trauma that came along with the event and emotional turmoil. So, how was he affected right after the event?
Well, I think all of the young people who were there that night, all of them have suffered some degree of post-traumatic stress. So I think it's going to be a life of, you never truly get over it. As you know, I've talked to some experts on post-traumatic stress. You just get better at understanding the triggers. You get better at understanding your reaction to all of it, and then you find ways of dealing with it for the rest of your life. The hardest thing for me has been just coming to grips that we almost lost him. You know, we were like this, literally this close from losing our son. And the hardest part was going to, I went to one of the funerals, and when you see the slideshow up on the screen there, and the music and the pictures, and all of the friends that they all grew up playing soccer together. So, fifth grade on, the hardest thing was just seeing that slideshow and realizing that that could have been us. As a parent, I've just come to really appreciate the time that we have together, because we almost lost him that night. I don't know what life would be like right now if we did, but I super appreciate the time that we have together now, because I know how close we came to losing him.
How did you kind of navigate this story that was so close to home as a journalist? And I know that you interviewed the victim's family as well.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you?
It was hard. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do as a journalist with this story, because it almost never happens that when you're reading a story, the actual people involved in a horrific story like this. But I did. I knew most of the people involved in the story. So I ended up doing an editorial, so to speak, on mass shootings after the Las Vegas shooting. My news director came to me and asked if I wanted to do something, and so I just basically laid out the case of, if we want to solve gun violence, we have to do something. We have to do something, and that's what I did, basically a video editorial on the news, urging people just to take action. One of the big takeaways for me in all of this is that our young people need to realize that it's on them to prevent these shootings. It's on them to identify people who need help, because by the time parents know, it's too late. I realize that as a journalist, you have to come to every story as a human being first. You have to care deeply about people that you talk with, because if you don't care to begin with, you're not doing your job. I think the only advice I'd have as a dad would be just to, this event really cemented in my head that you have to make the most of every day, and you have to appreciate every moment that you have with your loved ones, because we never know what's going to happen. You know, the world is a dangerous place. There are a lot of moving parts, and you never really know when will be the last time you see someone. So my advice to parents would be, man, just take advantage of every moment with your kids and with your loved ones, because there's no downside to that. But if you take it for granted, and if you don't cherish those moments, who knows? You know, don't leave anything unsaid. Don't leave anything undone. Life's too short. The challenge of the gun issue is that very few things are guaranteed in the Constitution like this. And I know a lot of things have changed since the Constitution was written. But in America right now, we have more guns than people. So just passing laws is not going to fix, I don't think, a lot of things. I just think there needs to be a balance. I think you have people on one side saying ban all guns, and you have people on the other side saying no restrictions of any kind on any gun. If we stay on the edges of this debate, if we stay on the extremes of this debate, we're not going to get to a common ground. I think gun ownership in this country is probably one of the most difficult issues that we have to deal with as a society. But we have to continue to try to figure out how to fix the problem, how to deal with the problem. I think we know what the solutions are. Those aren't as easy as just passing a law. It's actually caring about people and keeping in contact with people and talking with people and probing them when we know that they're hurting. So that's not nearly as easy. It's very difficult, but it's certainly doable.